One of the understandable issues which someone may have, particularly in light of yesterday's review wherein I ranted about not so much the Nismo itself. For any who actually open their ears instead of being blind fanboys, they'll have noticed I didn't hate on the car itself, it's more so what the car represents, and watch the video again and you can quite clearly see that. In fact, I'm pretty sure I even said it was a great car in its own right in the video, but then how can you simultaneously justify cars like this? A little Kei Car, quite literally. Yeah, it has some cool visuals, cheap and cheerful, but surely if you're going to hate on something like a Nismo for not fitting into the current Gran Turismo structure, well, how could you then justify this? Which also feels like an old school Gran Turismo pick, much like the Qashqai ironically, so surely you'd have to paint all three with the same brush. The Qashqai does get painted with much of the same brush, but we'll get to that one tomorrow. To me though, this is not the same, and in fact it's not even just to me, it's factually not the same. Not only is the Honda N1 literally over 100 times cheaper, well over 100 times cheaper than the Nissan in fact, at 20 grand versus that car's 3 million credits, but also, and here's the real kicker, regardless of your fandom, regardless of your love, regardless of your feelings, because facts don't care about feelings, you can use this car more. That's just the way it is. So you can argue modern Gran Turismo, classic Gran Turismo, whether or not a vehicle has a place in Gran Turismo, blah blah blah, but the fact is, you can use this car more. So yes, you could say, well, we don't need Kei cars in Gran Turismo 7, and to some degree I would say that's pretty much true. You can still enjoy them, just like you can enjoy the Nismo, but the fact that you can use this car in quite a few different events, not least of which Kei car centric ones, the fact that it's also so much cheaper, you can fart out 20 grand like it's nothing in this game. In fact, that's the price of a set of tyres for something like the Nismo or a variety of other cars. Yes, on the one hand, you could say that this particular car with its 63 horsepower standard, about 160 or so fully built, as well as its very low point level, as you would assume, at barely 300 points standard, quite a bit higher when fully built, that's for sure. Even without racing tyres, as I mentioned a few days ago, it's well over 500 points. So yeah, the car is actually pretty versatile. In the case of this one, of course, it's small, it's light, it's 840 kilos, and you can drop it a hell of a lot lower than that. The wide body looks awesome, much like it does with the Nismo as well. It's one of the only things they have in common, in fact, that they both have really cool visual upgrades. The difference really is as simple as being able to use the car that you've purchased. And I know that some people reel against something being such a simple response as that, like it doesn't seem like that should be a good enough answer, but I'm sorry, that is what it all boils down to. You can love a car, hate a car, feel apathetic about a car, but the fact is, part of the reason why, for example, people hate Vision GTs so much is because there's just nothing really to do with them. You can't tune them, they just feel somewhat pointless. And yet, when you recontextualize that by saying you can buy 3 entirely different Vision GTs for the price of the one Nismo, for example, well, again, that goes back into the Nismo rant. In the case of this one, it's pretty unarguable that A, it's more useful, B, of course, it's cheaper, which is an automatic plus if you're looking for just value for money, and in terms of how fun it is to drive, that can go back and forth, but this one in its own way definitely isn't not fun to drive. It's great through corners, super fun, build it up even without the need for a motor swap, to be honest, as cool as that would be. Getting it up around 160 horses is plenty for a Kei car, and the fact that it already comes with its own event straight off the bat, well, it shows that clearly Kaz loves it, which goes for a lot of cars, which he seems to add, and of course I'll get into those thoughts once again with the Qashqai tomorrow, but for now, pretty much sums up my thoughts for not only this Honda, which does have, in terms of handling, a little bit of a hint of understeer, but really there's not much to talk about there because you can easily iron that out with a bit of diff and suspension tuning. It really is just a pleasure to work with. You can already use it in events, it has its own events, it has a great range of use from 300 points, even lower if you limited it I guess, all the way up to beyond 500, and it's pretty damn good all of those levels as well, even against non-Kei cars. Are Kei cars out of place in the current era of esports Gran Turismo? Yes. Yes, they are. But for whatever reason, Kaz and the team have decided to really go out of their way and make a lot of Kei car stuff. Far more than they do even with the soft roaders and crossovers, because there's precious few reasons to have stuff like the Mazda, or the Qashqai, or the Toyota CHR. There's just nothing really to do with those. Whereas with stuff like this, or the little Suzuki Carry, or various other smaller cars that have been added, they do kind of go out of their way to make more events for them. So in a funny kind of way, yeah, they kind of are suited to Gran Turismo 7, but they're really not at the same time. Kei cars have a weird place in Gran Turismo 7, because on the surface, and if you describe the game, they really have no business at all being here, and without them, there wouldn't really be that much of a difference, except for whatever reason, they make a place for these cars. And wouldn't you know it, that kind of shines the spotlight on the wider range of cars in Gran Turismo as a whole, because if they treated the vast majority of vehicles, including the Nismo, with the kind of love which they give to these Kei cars with all of these events for them, well, a lot of other cars would probably be a hell of a lot more useful. Take it or leave it, it as far as my thoughts, but I'd love to hear yours down below. Of course, we still need to talk about the Qashqai, and trust me, I ain't going to be defending that car at all, because no, that does not have a place in Gran Turismo 7, and it's also just not a very good car in general. So there's the short version of tomorrow's review. Of course, I'll talk about that more when we get to it, and thanks for watching.